What is up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome in to the Sactown Sports Kings recap. Glad to be back. It's been a while. I was out in Vegas on Media Row, as it's called nowadays, for the past couple games, but glad to be back. Unfortunately, not after a Kings victory, as the Kings fall to the Phoenix Suns and what I like to call Club Phoenix by a score of 130 to 125 on national television on TNT in front of the entire nation. De'Aaron Fox and Demonis Sabonis specifically put on an absolute show tonight. It's disappointing that we can't talk about it in a winning effort. There was a lot of moments tonight that I want to get to. De'Aaron Fox missing some free throws down at the end of the game, a no call at the end where I feel like Demonis Sabonis definitely got fouled by Devin Booker, and just overall putting yourself in that kind of situation, not ideal against a team like the Phoenix Suns, who have a plethora of shot makers in Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, and as we've seen one too many times now in Grayson Allen as well. Man, Phoenix is good. I mean, that's is not shocking to anybody. We knew that team had tons of talent with KD Book and Bradley Beal, who actually went out at the start of this game with an injury. Um, they're a really talented team, and having Grayson Allen out there does add another dimension to them, as well as Eric Gordon, who came off the bench early and really played well for them. I thought Eric Gordon has been a really key piece to kind of what they do, um, and is just a really solid veteran that adds a lot to that team. Hats off to Phoenix. I mean, there's some shot makers over there. They shot a ridiculous percentage. We know that the Kings do play a part in that. I mean, we've seen teams routinely go crazy from three. I don't know what Phoenix ended up shooting tonight from the perimeter. They ended up shooting 41% from three. So there you go. We've talked about that before in the past, how teams that play against the Kings have shot 39% on average this year, which would be tied for or essentially be the best 3-point shooting percentage in the NBA. So every single night, you know that you're going to go against elite shooting for some reason, and the Kings just really struggle to defend the perimeter, even though it kills them every single night. It seems like. So I don't know if it's the fact that they're doing a lot more flying out onto shooters and not necessarily closing out and breaking down. But to me tonight, there was just way too many open looks for three. I know Nazir Little's not a great 3-point shooter. I know Josh Okogie isn't a great 3-point shooter. Royce O'Neal has actually been pretty up and down throughout his career. It's really the only thing he does is shoot threes, but even he's not a complete knockdown 3-point shooter. You can't give them wide open looks. I understand, again, they're not the highest quality shooters, and you do have to eventually settle for something. And I'm actually okay with Royce O'Neal hitting that big three at the end of the game. I would much rather have the game in the hands of Royce O'Neal than Devin Booker. So I don't really have a problem with him shooting that shot, but it's a whole nother thing to just give wide open look after wide open look, because eventually these guys are all NBA talents, and they can definitely hit a three or two. But tonight again is mainly, to me, from the King side of things. Domantas Sabonis is a freaking monster. This is now, I think, his third straight triple double. They mentioned it tons of times on the broadcast today. Leads the NBA in triple doubles, leads the NBA in double doubles, also in double double streaks. He's at 36 now, I believe. The next closest is Joel Embiid at 17. He's an all-star. They talked about it a lot. They questioned it a lot. Why is he not an all-star? The dude, I was saying today, like, I think that De'Aaron Fox needs to seriously look over his shoulder, because you could say Domantas Sabonis at this point, with how many great performances he's put in. Again, 36 straight double doubles. That's a level of expectation that has been met every single night. You could argue Domantas Sabonis has been the Kings' best player this season, just in total. Like, of course, De'Aaron had that crazy stretch at the beginning of the year, but as we've seen, there's been a lot of up and down since. And Sabonis has just been there every single night with rebounding, with shooting, or scoring, I should say. And then, of course, his assist as well. I think that there's a real conversation for Domas being the best player on this team, especially these past 2 seasons in the regular season. Of course, in the playoffs, that's a completely different monster. De'Aaron is this team's best player, and this team goes as far as De'Aaron Fox takes them in the playoffs. But just in terms of consistently showing up every single night and giving your 100% and just being a dominant force that the other team has to recognize every single night. I I just I can't I can only say so many things about Sabonis's performance. Dude is incredible. 7 of 8 from the free throw line tonight too. That's huge, especially, I know it's a little bit unfair because De'Aaron did have a massive spotlight on him for those 2 free throws that he missed. And who knows? It's not like I would feel a ton more confident with Sabonis at the line, but I think it's big for Sabonis to get to the line as many times as he did tonight. And I again would say I think Devin Booker fouled him at the end of that game there. I think it was to make it would have been it might have been 123 to 125 instead or something like that. I can't fully remember, but it was at the end of the game there. Domantas Sabonis got the ball in the post, had a wide open layup, and got Devin Booker to come over and help on his rotation. Got Devin Booker in the air. I thought Devin Booker came down on Sabonis's back, and Sabonis went up at that moment. And to me, that's a foul. That's an and one. And yeah, Brendan, thank you. I'm pretty sure that would have tied the game if they would have sent him to the line. So I thought that was a big missed call. And, who knows how this game goes if it goes after that. But it was a really big effort there for the Kings to make the comeback. They shot themselves in the foot in that second half. To start the second half, they were terrible. They were absolutely horrible in that third quarter specifically. I think they shot 30% or something like that from the field in the third quarter. And then for really half of that fourth quarter, just couldn't get anything going. They go on that 10-0 run, tie it up, and that's really where this thing became a real game. The problem is, kind of a lot like, sorry 49ers fans, but a lot like 49ers, the Super Bowl the other day. You can't put yourself in a situation where you're giving a guy who's at the caliber of Kevin Durant or Patrick Mahomes. You cannot put yourself in a situation where the game is in their hands. And that's where I think the Kings lost the game tonight. Is once this game became 3-4 minutes down the stretch and you're going bucket for bucket with Kevin Durant. And I mean, KD, honestly, I thought KD and Book were going to trade buckets back and forth. It was KD. KD, I think, hit 2 buckets back to back and then just really let Book have the reins down the stretch. And, that's what those dudes do. They hit tough shots. And down the closing stretch of games, that's what you need. Like, you're not always going to get easy layups. Even with the guy like De'Aaron Fox, you're not going to get him getting easy opportunities every single time down the floor. And that's why it's so tough to bet against Phoenix in a playoff series, because if you're going to go toe to toe, they got some dudes who will hit impossible shots, and they probably have the two best tough shot hitters in the NBA. And so, when this game turned into a back and forth with those two guys against, I mean, really, it became De'Aaron and Malik for the Kings. I just kind of knew that this probably wasn't going to go the Kings' way, and that's kind of why they need to figure out this Phoenix team, because they've kind of given them fits the last 2 times they've played them. Going small ball, I just didn't think the Kings did a good enough job exploiting the Suns going with no center. You saw Sabonis get one post up on Grayson Allen that then made Phoenix call a timeout and put Nurkic back in. But there were some moments out there with Alex Len where I thought, why aren't the Kings just feeding Alex and having him turn around and Wilt Chamberlain, Sky Dipper, or whatever he called it, just drop it into the hoop? Really frustrating. I think that's going to be the key. That's what the Kings have to do. If teams are going to go small on them, like Phoenix has done in the past, you have, if you're going to remain big and not match their size, you're gonna have to exploit it and force them to make a decision of, is what we're getting on the offensive end worth just allowing layups essentially from Alex Len and Sabonis? And I just didn't think the Kings did a good enough job of isolating those possessions and just really force feeding it. I think in those situations there, you don't have to be cute, you don't have to, get motion and then get the right matchup. Like Domantas Sabonis was eating up Yusuf Nurkic. I'm pretty sure Grayson Allen's not going to be a problem. I'm pretty sure Devin Booker, who has switched on him a couple times, isn't going to be a problem. So I don't know. I just feel like the Kings could have done a better job of doing that. But absolutely, I'm seeing a couple of people mention here in the chat. I think Keegan definitely needed the Kings needed Keegan Murray tonight. HB was kind of back to old HB ways. 9 points, hit a nice little mid-range jumper in the fourth quarter as well. That was a pretty big shot. But just overall, 1 of 4 from 3. If you're going to get a combined 15 points out of Keegan and HB, that's just not enough. Keegan, I'm sorry, but a lot of the Kings' success this year is banked into Keegan Murray's development and him being a consistent third offensive option. And yeah, I know he's being asked to guard Kevin Durant on the other side of things, but that's the life of the NBA sometimes. And you got to be able to put up more than 6 points. And I know KD was giving him fits on defense. He had 5 fouls. But I'm not saying Keegan had a bad game. He did a great job of doing other things. I'm sure Mike Brown will point that out to him. Keegan got 5 rebounds. He got an assist. He got a steal, got a block, and was guarding KD for sure. Like, I don't know if he didn't, you're never going to lock down KD. He did okay, but again, you're going to be asked to have to contribute on the offensive end tonight as well. And just, we've seen it a couple times, but just not enough out of him and HB tonight. I thought Kevin Huerter had a good start to the game. Really strong, just, some nights I think that's just going to be what you need out of Kev is just some scoring when he's out there. But if Malik is going to take over, I mean, Malik is going to take his spot in the closing lineup, and there's really nothing Kevin can do about it. So I think this is a really solid performance out of Huerter. And if they can get a version of this every night, then I think that they'll gladly take it. I wouldn't say Kevin Huerter got benched. I would just say that they decided to play Malik Monk a lot more because of how well he was playing. So you could look at it either way, but no, absolutely. No, this is true. Him and Mike Brown did get into it. He did get benched. I'm sorry. He did get benched at that moment. Yes. And he did not check in, but that's also, again, like he wasn't going to be in the closing lineup anyway. So it's a little bit of, he was going to check out at some point in the next couple minutes, but no, for sure. I would definitely classify what happened tonight as a benching. I did forget that moment happened. It was when Phoenix went on a run right before the Kings ended up going on their 10-0 run, if I'm remembering that correctly. And I mean, it was really just the fact, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm remembering correctly, I think it was KD pulled up for a wing 3, and like it was really just the fact that Kevin was sagging off way too much. And I think Kevin was just a little upset that he felt like he was being singled out when at that moment as a team they were kind of reeling. So I understand why Huerter would be a little bit upset, but and he had played pretty well offensively, but honestly, he did play really well defensively as well. There was a couple times where I noticed he got a couple really timely deflections. But yeah, I definitely forgot about that. And I would classify that as a benching because Mike Brown definitely sat him down because he was upset. He was upset at Kevin specifically. I did forget about that. Yes, I see. Rightfully so. Yes, people, you can go ahead and get on my case. He was benched tonight. That's true, but not like in the traditional sense of like he didn't miss a rotation. Like Mike Brown did not. Kevin. There wasn't a moment where Kevin was supposed to check in, and instead he went to Keon Ellis or Davion Mitchell. That's where my mind was going when I saw benched. Yeah, but let's see here. Talked about Keegan, talked about HB, of course, talked about Sabonis. We'll talk about him a little bit later as well. Talked about Herter there. Malik played great. There was that stint, I think it was in the second quarter, where he just completely took over, hit a couple runners, hit a tough lay-in, um, was just doing a little bit everything. And it was moments where it's like, can Monty McNair just sign this guy right now? I mean, I forget sometimes that he is the same age as De'Aaron Fox. And if you think about the potential of how much better De'Aaron can get, and in the same breath that you can say, oh my gosh, imagine De'Aaron Fox when he's turning 30, and that's going to be what De'Aaron's, I think, 25 now. So in 5 seasons, think about how good De'Aaron's going to be. Malik's the same exact age. And so if you can have both of those guys kind of coming up at the same time and figuring out after years of playing with each other, where they can kind of pick and choose their spots, it's going to be dangerous. Malik didn't even hit a three tonight, but just was crazy good on the inside. What is that? 9 of 11 from two. He was hitting tough layups, some circus shots. Just really, really good minutes offensively out of Malik tonight. Did he finish with 6 assists? He did finish with 6 assists. So yet another game where he has 5+. He leads all bench players in games with 5+ assists. Um, just I mean, he is this team's backup point guard. Like when De'Aaron's not out there, or even when De'Aaron is out there, he's the best option to. He's really the only other guy out there who can create his own shot or shots for others. Of course, we see how Malik can get his shot for himself. You see him be able to hit the mid range, which he started to take a couple more mid ranges per game, which has really helped. Again, he's 0 for 5 from 3 tonight, but the fact that he still kind of works his game in and can still stretch the floor a little bit. There's more than one way of stretching the floor besides hitting threes. So if he can hit that mid-range jumper, that's then going to pull defenders out, and then he can really be effective running the pick and roll, because if people have to worry about not just him either taking a three or going to the rim, they can, if that's the only two options, then I know once you're past the 3-point line, I'm just going to back all the way up or defend. What was happening was people were knowing that if Malik's not taking the three, he's probably going to dump it off to Sabonis. And if he doesn't do that, then he's going to attack the rim. So people were taking away the pass and then sliding over and helping to defend Malik on the backside. I just, I think that he's figuring out, he's adapting to people's adjustments to him. And you've now seen him score 20+ points in, I think, 6 of his last 7 games is what it is. I looked it up earlier today. He's figuring it out at the right time. We now only have one more game until the All-Star break. It's going to be tomorrow in Denver against the Denver Nuggets. And I hate to say it, y'all, but I don't think the Kings stand a chance tomorrow. I would love to be proved wrong, but honestly, I can't think of a worse situation than being on the road, doing a back-to-back in Denver where the altitude is already absurd. Like, I mean, people will say that, it takes a couple days to get acclimated to that kind of elevation. The Kings are arriving, I would assume, tonight, probably at like 1 or 2 a.m. They're also losing an hour. So the game is going to be at 6 p.m. tomorrow. So they actually get an hour less of adjustment period. And they're playing the defending champions. So and it's the last game before the All-Star break. So there is a little bit of getting ready for vacation vibes for sure. Of course, you'd like to think, oh yeah, take care of business first, and then you get to have fun on your vacation. The reality of the situation is everybody knows the Friday before you're about to have a 3 or 4 day weekend, not much is happening on that Friday. Not a lot of effort is being given on that Friday. And so That's definitely a fear for this team, especially after giving 48 minutes of effort tonight. Like, it's a real fear that this team, who has struggled already with back to backs, is really going to struggle tomorrow. When again, there's a lot of things working against them, and they have to play a team that they literally just played last week in the Denver Nuggets. Again, I mentioned that thing about Malik earlier. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So yeah, 6 of his last 7 games, he's finished over 20 points, and that one game he didn't. He finished with 18. So yeah, Malik is definitely finding his groove right now, and I hope he can continue it through the All-Star break, because we saw last year, that Clippers game happened on the other side of the All-Star break. We saw how important Malik was to this team in the playoffs last year. Like, that's where we need Malik Monk to be trending at this point in time. And it feels like, especially we want to peel back the curtain and talk about realities of situations. Malik Monk is in a contract year. Now, again, all indications show he's going to stay here in Sacramento, but he's not going to make it easy for him. Malik is trying to get every single dollar he can, rightfully so. And the best way of earning every single dollar is to play your absolute best, and show everybody what they could potentially be signing up for. And so, I expect big things, really, really big things out of Malik Monk down the stretch here. There's now 29 games left in this season. 29 games left in the season. That is almost a sprint for these guys, especially with how long I'm sure this season has felt at points with the in-season tournament and all that stuff. Let me look at when the Kings' last regular season game here is scheduled. Like, we have about, let me see, April 14th. So almost 2 months exactly. Almost 2 months exactly. 2 months from tomorrow, the season ends. So it is a full sprint to the end. And man, I mean, we've seen this team kind of start to play, I don't want to say more consistent, but better. They're playing better, and it seems like, especially from where they were at the start of the year, when there was a lot of Pelicans losses, and there was the Rockets losses. It just kind of felt like we weren't sure. I still don't think we know what we're going to get from this team on a nightly basis, but Kevin Herter wasn't shooting well at all at the beginning of the year. Kevin is starting to, he's still not lighting up the scoreboard. He's not putting up 20-point performances regularly, but 4 of 6 tonight. There's a lot of nights where he's contributing. Keegan, I think Keegan has been the most disappointing thing of this year. Not that he has been disappointing overall, but just I think there was a level of consistency that they were expecting. Again, just hoping he would be consistently this team's third option, and he just hasn't been able to be relied on like that. And that's a big ask. That's a really, really big ask. But I would just say ultimately, not finding out, excuse me, what they're going to get from Keegan every night has been a little bit tough. But for as, I don't want to say as inconsistent, but for as I guess as disappointing as that's been, Malik Monk has been great all year long. And I think that definitely, especially at the beginning of the year, helped this team. I think him and De'Aaron at the start of this year, with how well they were playing, I mean, it was holding them up. Sabonis kind of had a slower start to the year. HB, until like 2 weeks ago, wasn't really contributing heavily. But it feels like now, you're getting, again, HB didn't have a great night, but from where he was at, that big bucket in the fourth, 9 points, 5 boards, it sounds crazy, but I'll take it. Kevin Herter, again, consistently. They didn't have Trey Lyles tonight. I think Trey Lyles would have helped a lot. Just especially matching the Suns' small lineups. I think Trey could have helped. Defensively, of course, this team is still an enigma every single night, but I just kind of think everybody is in this league. I mean, the Kings aren't really until until they're actually good defensively. I mean, really, I think it's just it's gonna be every single night where they're gonna struggle for a quarter. And I don't think that they're the only team that does that. Phoenix, they even talked about on the broadcast today how Phoenix, I think Frank Vogel actually said, he last game when the Kings had that epic collapse, he Frank Vogel pretty much said my team was asleep for 3 quarters, and then they woke up in the fourth quarter. I think a lot of teams have issues with kind of finding focus for 48 minutes. So, and that's, to me, that's the difference between those top 4 seeds and then the grouping that the Kings, the Lakers, the Mavericks, the Pelicans, all of those teams are in, is because they just don't play consistently enough on the defensive end. Because, yeah, I mean, you got to get stops. You have to get stops at some point. You can't let KD get into a rhythm. You can't let Grayson Allen especially get into a rhythm. You can't let Eric Gordon get into a rhythm. You can survive with, I mean, frankly, you can survive with KD and Book doing what they do, but it's if you let Grayson Allen hit some threes, well, that's the third guy they need. If Eric Gordon's hitting threes, they just become really, really difficult to defend. And I mean, against a team like Phoenix, it's almost more important to slow down those other guys than to slow down KD and Book. Okay. We're going to do our 3 starts of the night and then get out of here. Well, I'll probably look at your guys' comments and then I'll get out of here. So first star of the night is Malik Monk. 22 points. Again, he went crazy in that second quarter. He's so fun. I just think, this team benefits a lot from his energy and the spark that he brings. I kind of can't imagine this team without it. I feel like there would just be massive lulls offensively if it wasn't for Malik. If truly every single night De'Aaron and Domas needed to do what they did tonight, I don't think that they're capable of doing that. And Malik, in theory, is the guy that's kind of going to lighten the load for at least one of those dudes every single night. And he continues to just ball out. Again, I mentioned his 6 of 7 games, 6 of his last 7 games with over 20 points. He's also got a 7 assist game in there. He's got a 6 assist, a 10 assist game, another 6 assist game, and then a 5 assist game. Like he's figuring out how to do it all with this team, and I think they're going to need it in the playoffs. I just don't know. Come playoff time, if they need bucket getters, it's him and De'Aaron, and so they're going to need to get used to Malik having the ball in his hands. They're going to need to get used to figuring out how to get open off of Malik in Sabonis pick and rolls, because I just think that that's really the Kings' best weapon offensively, is to get Sabonis and Monk into the pick and roll. They really don't run a lot of Fox Sabonis pick and rolls. So I feel like, just really weaponizing, which is what the playoffs is about, is really just about doing, taking advantage of mismatches over and over and over until another team adjusts. To me, that's the thing that down the stretch of games, I would love to see the Kings just run Malik and Domas pick and rolls until the other team stops them. And then when they do stop them, that's when you got a guy like De'Aaron Fox. So I think I think it'll be interesting to see just kind of how much they go to that the second half of this season. 2 stars goes to De'Aaron. It feels crazy to have a dude score 40 points and he's gonna have 2 stars, but it was a volume night for De'Aaron a bit. He got a couple open threes early, but we still haven't really found his 3-point shot that he was knocking down at the beginning of the year. 40 points is great. 9 rebounds is spectacular from the guard position. He had a couple steals. He had a clutch poke away on KD at the end of that game. He played great. He ran transition. He capitalized a lot in the fast break, off of steals. Great game from De'Aaron. Great game. And hopefully he can have another good one against Denver, and kind of build some positive momentum heading into the All-Star break. He needs rest. That's what I know. We saw him take a hard fall tonight when Grayson Allen hit him in the head. I think it's a really positive sign. He didn't touch his shoulder once when he fell. Didn't seem to affect him at all. So that continues to be a complete mystery. But great game from De'Aaron. Great game from De'Aaron. Need more like this. And he stepped up. I think De'Aaron definitely, he's a student of the game. He knows KD is one of the all-time greats. I think he really gets up for playing guys like KD, obviously like Steph. We've seen him have crazy games against the Lakers and LeBron. I think De'Aaron does a really good job of recognizing when there's greatness out on the floor that he really respects. He usually brings his A game and tries to show them, like, I'm kind of that dude. So shout out De'Aaron for just killing it tonight. Wish he could have been a little bit more efficient. Really wish he would have hit those 2 free throws in the fourth quarter, but I'm not going to let that take away from an overall great game from De'Aaron. It was not as great as my dude Domantas Sabonis, who shows up every single night, gets another triple-double, his 3rd straight game with a triple-double. I'm running out of words to say how good this dude is. He affects the game in so many different ways. Tonight he had 3 blocks, two of them came in the first quarter. Just incredible. Like like I said earlier, I really think there's an argument for him being the Kings' best regular season player the past 2 seasons. I said a lot of last year at the end, like, if you were to give me an MVP, a most valuable player to this Kings team, I think it's Domantas Sabonis, just because of how much usage he has, and just truly how many people rely on him to get their game going. And to me, that's value. Not just what you bring yourself, but what you bring yourself and what you can bring to others. How can you make others on your team better just because you're out there? I don't think there's anybody on the Kings who's a force multiplier in the same way that Domantas Sabonis is. And it shows up in the assist numbers, but it doesn't show up in numbers like screen assists, which, I mean, you can look up screen assists. Domantas Sabonis is leading the NBA in them, but it's not a number that's just out there. If screen assists were a number that is like assists, if it was on box scores the same way that it is assists, there's no way Domantas Sabonis would be an all-star, because he creates openings for other people. His dribble handoffs are probably the best weapon in the NBA. Like, I don't think anybody creates as much open looks for others as Domas does. And does a great job of finding them too. It's one thing to get guys open. It's another thing to see them and get them the ball. And he's just so good at it. I'm looking right now. Sabonis right now, in terms of per game, he's even leading 5.7 screen assists per game. That is number 1. Number 2 in the NBA is Jalen Duren at 5 assists per game, 5 screen assists per game. So there's a wide margin between 1 and 2. Excuse me. I'm talking too much these days, man. I'm losing my throat. It's killing me. I'm just getting emotional talking about my guy Sabonis, man. He's just so talented. Man. But seriously, like, the guy is incredible. And people just don't know how good he is. It's a real shame. It's a real shame that you just can't appreciate a guy like him as a star, because clearly he would be an all-star. He should be an all-star. But his style of play isn't for everybody. People think that he's too aggressive, dips his shoulder too much contact. Sorry. He's a physical guy. Like it's what he's got. He wasn't blessed with hops. He wasn't blessed with, he was blessed with some great genes, Arvydas Sabonis, but he's that's his advantage, is his strength, and it's a contact sport. That's what I like to tell people. You might be fooled if you watch a couple NBA games, but it's a contact sport, and you're allowed to go body to body with people. And I'm gonna tell you something: 7-footers, tall people like these giants that play this game, they might be big, they might be strong, they might be in great shape. They do not like contact. And Domantas Sabonis initiates contact. And he's always going to do it. And you know what? I think as he gets older, like I think he's 28 years old. I think as he gets into his 30s, he's just going to continue to do it, and he's going to get even stronger than the young bucks that are coming into the league. So get used to it, and if anything, it's only going to get worse. He's 27, actually. So, yeah, dude is a walking triple-double. Absolutely. Let me get to your comments here, and then I'll head on out of here. Excuse me. Thank you for putting up with me kind of dying on the stream here, coughing up a lung. Appreciate y'all always hopping in here. Trey's sick. There you go. I actually didn't see what the official wording was on Trey. So Trey's apparently sick, which I guess is in the air these days. I feel fine. Yeah. Man, that three from Fox too at the end where he hit it to make it, I believe it was a 1-point game. I think it made it 124, 125. That's a big shot, man. That is a big shot. It is risky as hell to take it, because if he would have missed it, it would have been game. It would have been curtains, and he drilled it. So I do have to give him credit for that. And I know I was kind of talking about him not shooting well from the perimeter. What did he finish? 5 of 12 from three. I guess technically that's 41%, but that's a lot of threes. Yeah, that's a good point, Brian. Hopefully Lyles and Duarte. I mean, I wouldn't hold my breath on Duarte, but Duarte, yeah. Anyways, hopefully, yeah. But seriously, hopefully Trey can play tomorrow. Maybe they go a little bit deeper. Keon got some minutes tonight. Kessler got some minutes tonight. Yeah, I would hope that they go a little bit deeper. Sabonis played 38 minutes tonight. Fox played 39. Malik played 33. HB played 37. That's a lot of minutes. That is a lot of minutes, especially, again, going into Denver tomorrow. Mike Brown did not challenge a single call tonight. Not a single call, which I thought was interesting, especially from someone who's as challenge happy as he is. I feel bad saying that Mike Brown should have challenged, because I feel like every game I'm telling him not to, but man, there was some tonight where I was like, you should challenge. And he did not throw out a single challenge. Yep. 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 Yeah, I'm seeing Keegan. A lot of people wondering what's going on with Keegan. I haven't actually looked at his string of play recently to see if there's any consistency in his inconsistency, I guess. But Yeah, I mean, if people are saying here like, yeah, bro shoots bad from three, it really rarely makes only really makes layups. Also seeing, yeah, Keegan's arc looks flat. Could have a lot to do with tired legs. Um, Big part of the sophomore slump as well is just kind of still figuring out how to pace yourself correctly. Keegan, like, it's so weird. People don't really think about it, but if you're entering the draft, I'm just gonna keep this up, but if you're entering the draft, the NBA draft, your college season ends in March. Okay, March Madness season ends in March. From the day that your season is over, you're done with school. You're not going back to a class ever again. You're entering the draft. You're from that day to the day, I mean, probably like a week before, maybe. Honestly, I mean, like with pre-draft workouts, it could be as late as, we'll just say, to draft day, which is mid-April. So for like a solid month, you're you're doing nothing but training and like getting better, enhancing your skills every single day, probably two a days. You're trying to get into the best shape of your life because you're going to be going to teams, individual workouts. You need to kill those workouts. You need to look like you're in the best shape of your life. You need to be shooting better than you've ever shot, jumping higher than you've ever jumped, all that stuff. So you go from that to the draft. You get drafted. Congrats. Get to party that night, whatever. A week later, probably honestly, like within 2 to 3 days, you got to report to the team. Then summer league starts, and like I think 3 weeks after the draft. So, if you do a California Classic, well, then that takes away another week. And then the week you have a training camp a week leading into your first summer league. And so it's really like you have 1 week off. And then, you're probably, again, if you're going to the facility, well, then you're probably moving and you're going to that town and you don't have anything to do. And so you're probably, my bigger point is, you are pretty much working from the time you enter the draft to the time you get drafted. Then the season happens, or and then the summer league happens. You get a couple weeks off in between the end of summer league and the start of training camp, which is maybe a month and a half of rest. And even then, you should probably be prepping for the season. So then the season starts, and then you have 82 game blur where everything is just happening day by day, and you're just trying to process as much as you can. Then the season ends, and Keegan specifically worked out all summer with De'Aaron Fox. Now, maybe you could say they probably took, I don't know, we'll say 2 to 3 weeks off immediately after the season. So Keegan has pretty much had a month off in the past 2 years, is essentially where I'm getting at. And so I think a big part of this could just be fatigue. I think a big part of his shot looking flat, all of it, is this dude played 3 seasons, I think, of college basketball, didn't take a break or took no longer than like 2 weeks of a break, and has just been playing basketball for almost nonstop for 2 years. And then, I'm sure this offseason, whenever this offseason is, I guarantee he's going to take at least a month off. At least. So, yeah, I think a lot of it is just he's tired. And, in college, the most games you're ever going to play in a season is like 42 to 45. And you go from that to playing 82 the next season. And Keegan's at 48 right now. So, like, this is where his body for 23 years had been prepping him to play that amount of games max. And then all of a sudden, you're now having to adjust that to play pretty much double the amount of games in like maybe like a month or two of extra time. So you're just playing more games in a tighter window relatively. I mean, yeah, if you average it out than you ever have in your life. You've played more basketball than you have ever played in your life, and you just haven't stopped. So it's definitely an excuse for sure, but it's also a reason. And I think it plays a factor on offense and defense. But you see, Keegan is definitely taking a back seat these past couple weeks. Yes, absolutely. Do I genuinely think the Kings have a shot at making the playoffs anymore? Absolutely. I know that they are. Let me share my screen here. I know the Kings are now the 8th seed in the NBA, which is not ideal. Let's at the standings. We can see that your Sacramento Kings are currently in 8th place. I don't believe this is shared. There we go. As we can see here, your it's tough. I mean, the Western Conference is a freaking gauntlet. Um, but but it's not unreasonable to say that the Kings could easily, by the end of the season, end up at the 5 seed. Like, they are a game and a half right now behind Phoenix. They have one more game against Phoenix. So this thing could flip literally over the course of one game. So if it does make that next Phoenix game incredibly important. Almost a must win, if you will. But it's not crazy to say that the Kings are going to definitely end up in a playoff spot. Bradley Beal went out tonight. I don't know if Phoenix is going to be able to, you know, stay afloat without Bradley Beal. They were terrible at the start of the year. Really disappointing at the beginning of the year before Bradley Beal was able to play for them. So if Brad's going to miss significant time at all, I don't trust Phoenix. The Pelicans, you trust Zion? You trust Zion's health? He's been healthy this year so far. But you know who else has been healthy so far this year? Kawhi Leonard. He was out tonight. I'm just saying, the longer and the deeper we get into the season, more likely it is that these fellas who have a propensity to miss games probably going to start feeling the effects of this new 65 game mandate where they're not used to it. Dallas, not really concerned about Dallas. I mean, there's a shot. I mean, honestly, to answer this question, do I genuinely think the Kings uh have a shot at making the play-in? I do, as long as they stay out of the play-in of the playoffs anymore. As long as they stay out of the play-in, I'll tell you this right now. I don't trust them in a play-in situation. If you're telling me that the Kings have to win a basketball game, absolutely not. I don't trust them in that sense. I've just never seen them come through like that. So to answer your question, yes, I do legitimately think they could. Um, but it's that thing is it's also fluid. It's definitely also fluid. Hmm. Interesting. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, shortcake. It's definitely tough for sure. They've put themselves behind the 8 ball. Absolutely, absolutely behind the 8 ball for sure. Yep, exactly what I was thinking. Yep, Beal being out might affect Phoenix, but he at least has the All Star break to heal a bit. I mean, I don't know if y'all heard, but apparently my man has a broken face. He had a twisted ankle, and tonight he pulled his hamstring. So, you know, That sounds like a lot of healing to me. And I would bet he's gonna miss some time. Might not be, like a month or anything like that, but I would think a couple games after the All-Star break, man, because that dude seems to be made of glass. Laxical. Laxical. Yeah. Yes. This is where I'm gonna end tonight. Okay, Jess, I like it. Kings ending in the top six. Yes. Um, but for sure, yeah, I'm gonna take a look here at the Kings homestand because that is a good point. The Kings have a long homestand in March. That is probably, I don't want to say it's going to determine the season, but if it doesn't go well, then things probably won't go well for the Kings in the long run. Here we go. Pulling it up here. It is in March. There it is. And it is a toughie. It is toughie. It is this stretch right here. Um, is really it. I mean, San Antonio, easy matchup. Houston, you got to get some get back on Houston. Um, let's see here. Milwaukee, I think the Kings can beat the Bucks. We saw that game in Milwaukee go down to that Damian Lillard buzzer beater. Um, but just that's the toughest part. I mean, those three games right there are the toughest part. But this is honestly right after when they go on the road where the Kings have to take advantage. Just Memphis, Toronto, Washington. If you can beat LA here, like I mean, frankly, really, you've got to beat all the bad teams. You cannot afford to have games like you had against the Portland Trailblazers or against the Charlotte Hornets or like we just saw against the Detroit Pistons. You cannot have that because the second half of this season is brutal. The Kings have the fifth toughest strength of schedule remaining in the NBA. It's not going to be easy for them. So they're going to have to come out ready to go. Absolutely ready to go. And yeah, there is, Jess, this is a great nugget here. Kings have 4 games left in the, I'm sorry, 4 games in general in the month of February and 11 home games in the month of March. The Kings have actually been pretty good at home, not anything special. But let me see if I can really quickly here pull up their home and road splits. Um, they still aren't using Golden One Center like the home court advantage that it should be, but are 15-9 at home this year, which is I believe a better win percentage than they had last year. They're barely scratching above the surface on the road, 15-14. But yeah, they have to continue to make Golden One Center the best home floor advantage in the NBA. And yeah, I mean, hopefully they can do that in the month of March. Looking forward to it. And yeah, I got to go eat dinner, and I also have to uh, go drink. Y'all have a fantastic night. I will see you tomorrow after the conclusion of Kings